Welcome back to part two of our episode with Tim and Shane. There was so much insight in the first episode that we had to split it into two parts. Please enjoy part two of two. Shane has been instrumental in helping top contractors execute major contracts, scale their field teams, and maintain consistent access to qualified, skilled trade talent. He also consults with companies on how to stay competitive in tight margin jobs by identifying and creating cost savings opportunities that are often overlooked. Please enjoy this episode of the Advo-Cator podcast. This is a special episode of the Advo-Cator podcast. Welcome to part two of our two-part episode. There was so much insight that these pros brought that we had to split it into two.
Well, I think there's a couple things that we're going to enter into. I want to touch on the health insurance part because that's a real thing. When I look at companies knowing their numbers and kind of planning ahead and not being reactive, I'm a big believer in it's a sports analogy, but you have to experience what's happening between the white lines, recognize what's going on, and then you need to adjust. And there was a time when you, as I told you before, you open a business, you stick the key in the door, you pay the rent, you pay the insurance, you pay the whatever, hire the people, and that's all you need to do. Well, now these other numbers are sliding around so fast. Health insurance going up, general liability going up, workers' comp going up, order going up, this going up, that going up, right? It's happening so fast that you need to react. And I think a lot of businesses are not looking at those numbers and saying, okay, how do I need to restructure how I buy that, how I offer that, how I take my revenue in? Maybe I take my revenue in differently. And the top performers that I'm seeing are ones who are reading the game, right? Use a football analogy. And you go out there and you script your first couple plays and you play and you go, okay, well, how are they reacting to me? Well, how are we as business owners going to react to rising insurance costs, rent, fuel costs, whatever? So planning ahead leads you to thinking about things about, I'm a big believer in feedback, feedback from employees, feedback from my family, feedback from my customers. And so I think I'm wondering, what are your customers giving you feedback? That's a great question.
So, and it's fun because it's you play the realm long enough. You're around a lot of the same players who are going after the same work, right? So everybody's kind of in the know and talking about each other. And the one common theme is, I can't believe they won that job for that number. Like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. I've seen this 1,000 times. It doesn't make sense. They're working off retainage. They got right, and again, whether it's true or not, because everybody says it about one another when they lose a job, right? It's just the industry. Yeah. Everybody's very passionate. They believe they run the best business, their numbers the tightest, right? But it's like, do you actually know, right? Maybe that person can do that job for that number. Maybe they can. Maybe they shopped around and got a better policy. Maybe you're paying too much. Maybe they adapted through the years when health premiums went through the roof. Right? Yeah. Right? So it's like, hey, maybe you didn't shop the policy. Maybe when things got slow and you laid off those 30 guys and you're a plumbing contractor and 30 guys went out the door, right? And you just got that job, you got your foot in the door with the GC or the developer, they want you there, they're mobilizing in 2 weeks, and you had to hire 30 guys off the street and everybody wanted 40 an hour because you needed mechanics who could work independently. That other customer, they're hiring low and slow, 5 guys a week, making them do skills testing. Show me how you do no-hug for these fittings. Hey, here's a print. Show me where this is. All right, you wanted 35. We both know how you showed up here today. Are you open at 30 if I can create a plan for you to get to 35, if we can teach you something? Next thing you know, this guy's composite number is this, and you bid it at this.
And the 5 employees that he's hiring a week are staying for
years on end. And he doesn't have a churn and burn operation. And again, it's one of those edges. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to be in the pinch, and you got to get what you can get when you need it. But if that is a business model and you find yourself more you get one pass in my book. If you have to do that more than one time a year, you got to put some things in place, right? If you're constantly reactive, you're just at the mercy of the market and at the mercy of your estimating team.
Thanks for joining the Advo-Cator podcast.
And
Stay tuned for more from Tim and Shane, reviewing how the tough times in this current market, times being uncertain, what top performers are doing. Also, what are the most common complaints employees are complaining about relative to what their employers are offering, and how to stay competitive and win jobs in this tight margin market.
In terms of safety, Alex, I mean, what we see when we place people within the construction marketplace, the things that are important to construction workers right now, above anything, are collaborative environments. Like, folks don't like hostility. And in the construction world, like, you got to figure out how to create leaders within your organization. Like, again, you've had some great years on your podcast, and I know some of them personally. They are big culture guys. Like, they probably talked a lot about culture, like how their leaders lead, how their foremen interact with their crews, how their superintendents interact with their crews, right? So, like, calm, composed, fact-based leadership that's not going to create that aggro mentality on site. Animosity, right? Like, culture is king in any construction organization, right? So great culture on site, that's one. Two is just safety, right? Like, folks want to work in that site where it's like they could eat off the forest. Like, everything is buttoned up, and like, that's not an actuality, but like, trying to get close to that is like what you should be striving for, right? Like, the guy who's like on the lift for you, and he's like operating that lift, running over 2x4s and like broken pieces of duct, like, that's the guy who's going to probably have a fake claim against you, or a real claim because your site sucks and he got injured and you're responsible for that. What do you think?
That, I think it's two different schools, right? It's the employer that didn't wait for the single rate on health insurance in New York to be $1,600 a month, right? It's the guy that understood he had to change in order to help his employees, both monetarily and both from a culture standpoint, right? So maybe that was an HRA, a health reimbursement arrangement, right? Maybe that was saying, okay, I'm gonna dip my toe into the ocean of self-insurance and take on some of this risk in order to lower the insurance costs for the company, but at the same time giving my employees almost better benefits or the same benefits they had, right? So I know my employee at $35 an hour or $85,000 a year, $100,000 a year can't afford to take on the risk, right? But through quality metrics, to understanding how my insurance policy works, I can say I'm willing to take on a little bit of that risk, right? And by doing that a while ago, that person, that business owner, that employer is he's in a better place than he is than the person that didn't do that today, with where premiums and the landscape of the market is. The other side of that is the employer that didn't take action, that just, I deal with it all the time. I ask to come in and have consults with prospects, with business owners, and I say, so tell me about the, let's talk about the major medical policy first, and then we'll get into the other benefits. Okay, we've been with Oxford for 15 years, same plan, never changed. I'm like, whoa. So you've been swallowing 8 to 9% increases every single year while maybe not changing the employer contribution. So where I see success is I see business owners willing to adapt and change their outlook on markets prior to it all blowing up. And a lot of times that's hard, we use the term Stockholm syndrome in the insurance, in the medical insurance world, like falling in love with your captor. What is Oxford giving you for your $1,300 a month premium? What are you getting? Is your employee using the benefits that you're paying for, or that both of you are paying for? Is that happening? Have you assessed that? Have you taken a look at it? Have you looked at the alternative options? Like an HRA that says, hey, I know my employees, for the most part, my group is a very healthy group. I got a lot of young men and women who work for my organization. They're going on annual physicals. They're doing what they need to do to stay healthy. And maybe they're going to urgent care twice a year to to get an antibiotic because it's flu season or whatever it is, right? Okay, so why are you paying the $1,300 a month for a premium that you know is not being used? I should just taking your money and keeping it. And you're so worried that, well, what if somebody has a big problem? What if somebody ends up in the hospital? What if one of my employees has cancer? What if one of my employees needs open heart surgery? Okay, well, look at the bigger picture. Look at the broader picture. How much money did you save? Are you going to have to cover that deductible? There's always, safeguards, stop loss. It's insurance. It's insurance. You paid for it for a reason. But what does that look like? And are you willing and have you taken a deep look at how you're providing those benefits to your employees?
So I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but I want to come back to where I was going to go with this, because you mentioned Oxford, right? It's a name everybody's heard of. And I'll mention another one, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, right? So like, those are the two names that you hear, right? I mean, I go back, if I think back the last 25, 30 years, those are probably the two names, right? So
you had some players here and there. You had your Charismatics and your Health First that tried to come into the market, and New York is just such a difficult place with insurance. But yes, you are correct. It has been those two heavyweights.
But that's what I had when I was a kid. When both parents had Blue Cross Blue Shield Element, and I'm older than both of you, and it was a long time ago. But what else is out there? What else can business owners be thinking about? I mean, they've heard of PEOs, they've heard of union plans and this kind of plan, that kind of plan. Like the commonality in the room here is like, think ahead, plan ahead, know your numbers. Well, the three of us sitting right now, we're going to plan ahead and think ahead right now. What else is out there?
I think that if you're looking at the market and you're talking about the employers that we're talking about right now, under 100 in New York, you have to understand that it's not just your employees' medical benefits that you're paying for. You're paying for everybody that's on those plans. Everybody that's under 100 employees. Oxford's rolling out premiums. Anthem Blue Cross is rolling out premiums. And you're paying for those people because New York is a community-rated state. So what are the options? Well, there are options out there. There are options that your performance from a claim standpoint as a company, not as an aggregate in the entire state, but at just your company, your people, these products are tied to your performance from a claim standpoint. And what does that mean? That some people will take that and say, "Whoa, that's scary." Other people will look at it and say, "Okay, well, that's great because now I don't have to pay for the GLP-1s or the open heart surgeries or the cancers that hundreds of thousands of people on these small group Oxford and Anthem plans have been, with the reason why, the premiums have been being driven up." You can tie yourself to an association plan, to a union plan, to a product that's outside the box where maybe your premiums go down 30, 40, 50%. And what does that mean? It means you could do a lot of different things. You could lower contributions for your employees, where we're talking about employee culture before. What are you doing for your employee? All of a sudden, they were paying X amount to be insured, and now you're saying, well, I'm going to save the money, so you're going to share in that savings. And all of a sudden, half is coming out of their paycheck now. That's a huge boost to their take-home pay. That's one way. The other way is, okay, we're spending such a lower amount of money on health insurance now. I can take that leap into a health reimbursement arrangement, into funding some deductibles, into making that savings work for us. And you will cross the bridge of claims if and when you get to it. People think, what's going to happen if this happens? Oh, well, then we transition. We make a move. We may have to implement the plan with a little bit higher deductible next year. You may have to go back into the small market, whatever it is. But if you don't take and chance is the wrong word because it's not chance. If you don't take a calculated look at what you're spending and you just say, I'm just going to eat the increases, I'm going to pay what they want me to pay, you are not being a fiduciary to the medical insurance and the benefits you're providing your employees.
The Advocate Association. Calling all small and mid-sized businesses, the Advocate Association helps you cut costs, improve safety, and grow smarter. Through education, advocacy, and exclusive member benefits, please visit us at theadvocateassociation.org. Our members are saving on things like health insurance, auto insurance, workers' comp insurance, auto fleets, legal, accounting, software, IT services,
building supplies, and more. Again, please visit us at theadvocateassociation.org to find out more and to join.
What are you seeing in feedback relative to the health insurance subject? I want to put a little bit of a ball.
And again, right? Like I know what I know about the space. Like I can't tell you the amount of meetings where I've walked in the room and we're talking. Hey, I have this job coming up. This is the amount of metal I'll need. Hey, let's start doing on this. It's like, oh, my premiums are killing me. Like this is ridiculous. Right? Like I've seen, again, I've been serving my marketplace for going on 9 years now. Like there's companies that like my sales team has called on in 2018. They're just gone. They're just gone. And like we look at why they're gone. Like they could not afford their premium. They had to downsize, and they never looked into those alternative measures in like staff aug with staffing company, PEO, or union agreement, like to take that pressure off. Like the pressure of the premiums will just sink companies. Like, oh, you have to carry a 10 million umbrella just to do those jobs. Like you were only doing those jobs, and like guess what? Like they went away, and you didn't have an alternate option, so you had to keep paying those premiums. You're done, right? So like the thing that I'm seeing most is employers who are like the trends of flexibility now is key, like especially in Long Island and New York City. I've had people on my sales team meet with customers, and they're like, hey, our service team is on a PEO, but our in-house team that does carpentry and maintenance are in-house employees. But because the premiums were skyrocketed because of the vehicles, like they went PEO for their service department, right? And like they're killing it because now they've offset risk. They can still charge premium prices, and they're not getting squeezed on their premiums, right? So I think what I've seen is like the folks who are creative and they can, and again, we're working in a circle here, which I love them for, right? Like when we talk about planning, vision, and flexibility for our employees and like retention, like those are the companies that stay alive and make it. They're planning for the future. They're not allowing themselves to be leveraged by, again, you talked about Stockholm syndrome and being a slave to your captor. Like they refuse to get leveraged by the captor, right? Like hey, we're shopping it this year. Like policy renews here. Yeah, let's go. We're shopping it. Like, oh, like we had an injury here, but like they're not doing anything to increase safety. Like those people are done. Like the people who are flexible, willing to put processes in place, and will shop plans for affordability constantly are the ones who have a little bit of money. They can keep things closer, and then they launch, and they're able to expand, right? The people who are just like, I like Joe, like Joe's our guy, like we're paying him X amount in policy a year, like when your jobs dry up, like Joe's not shedding a tear for you, like he's billing you the same amount of money and you're toast.
Yeah.
Right? So
Nimble and adaptive.
That's all I'm seeing. Like the folks who are open to creative solutions within the marketplace.
I think that another commonality, another word I would use would be open-minded.
Yeah,
Yes.
1,000%.
It's like
Yes.
I don't care what I'm shopping for. I won't buy without a relationship.
Yes.
So if I don't have the relationship, I'm going to call you for your relationship. I'm going to call you for your relationship. I'm going to go to my neighbor for his relationship. But I'm a relationship guy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you have to get your information. And if I'm servicing your business and you don't question what I'm doing, then you're not allowing me to do my job. Okay? If I don't have the answers to the questions you gave me, well, now I've just proven that I'm not able to work for your business anymore. But you need to ask me why I'm doing what we're doing. You have to ask me what's going on. You don't have to be the insurance expert, the staffing expert, health insurance expert, but you got to ask your people what's going on, and you have to be willing to dive into that. Because the one thing that I've seen is that clients have come to me in a pinch. They had a loss the year before. It came on the renewal. The renewal went up 100%. They had, someone had a claim inside, a medical procedure, an illness, something like that. They were kicked out of the PEO. Something happened, right? And it was reactive. I usually get the phone call. I'm the guy who cleaned up the mess. I get the phone call reactively. What do I do? And the first answer I say back is it's not going to fix itself. But we have to look at everything. So we have to look at those buckets. And we're going to look at what your culture is. And we're going to look at what your structure is. We're going to look at what your quality control is, your SOPs. And we're going to look at what you're spending and how you're spending it. And usually, I will dive at what you're spending and how you're spending first, because I know I have to fund the other things. So if I find money over here because you bought it wrong or you structured it wrong, I know you can fill some of that money back in. but I also know it's part of the bigger picture. You're going to want to invest those dollars back into structure or quality control or whatever it is, because you know as a business owner that, geez, if I could do this more repeatedly, easily, not have to stress myself or my team out every single time we do it, that didn't cost me anymore, I'm in. But where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
If you don't look at how you're buying what you're buying and some of your fixed costs, people look at their biggest numbers. The biggest numbers are payroll, health insurance, and insurance in general. Look at those two numbers. Audit those three numbers. And it has nothing to do with the relationships that you have. Just audit them.
Yeah.
I have found millions of dollars right there, and it funds the rest of it. And the ones who weren't able to adjust, the ones who weren't able to look at it, the ones who didn't want to, who said to me, literally had clients, ex-clients, say to me, oh, it was just too hard. When you say it's just too hard, you've just written that you are going to be somebody's captor, and those businesses are now out of business. Absolutely. Because that captor came home to roost.
And the fire alarm is going to keep alive. You know, it's never going to stop. You're always going to be putting out some type of fire, like you said, Alex. Clients calling you saying, I got to do this because this just happened. That's reactive, and it's a product of poor planning.
Yep. So I guess, kind of putting a little bit of a bow on this, be open-minded, audit everything, and make sure that there is not another way to skin that proverbial cat to handle that challenge. Because, I think back to my construction days. I mean, the idea of bringing in a subcontractor to do something that we could do by just having more people, that was as foreign as it could possibly be. But the idea that you might have a lower cost to deliver the same person, if not better, for me to deliver for that project, most people aren't thinking that way because it's not how they've always done it before. And I'll never forget the family member told me that. I said, well, what if we do it this way? And it's at the construction company. It's like, it's just not how we do it. Yeah. Just like, okay. People who say it's just not how we do it, their heads in the sink, right? And so thinking about that, health insurance wise, it's just not how we do it. You've been with so-and-so for forever. It's just what we've always done. Yet you have to adapt. Otherwise, the world kind of envelops you. So taking a step back and kind of putting a little bit of a bow on this thing, I think, what are the common complaints, right, that customers, their employees, maybe employees that are leaving you and going to an employer full time, what are some of the complaints that you see relative to your side of the desk, so to speak, that employers should know about and should be part of their future plan?
Yeah, I think share your backlog with your workforce, with your leaders in the field.
Meaning share with them just how healthy the pipeline is.
What you have the humming.
Make them feel a part of it.
Yeah, because I'm not even gonna hit on the pay situation, because in my mind right now, the pay situation in New York City is broken. You had so many, and again, this goes through all the MEPs in New York City, whether you're a mechanical, electrical, or a plumbing customer. What happened over the past 3 years in New York City is diabolical, in my opinion, because people were, again, we have a labor deficit in the United States right now. For every 10 people retiring, there's one to replace them in the trades. Fact-based. Crazy, right? So what does that do? We have a ton of reactive contractors in the New York City metropolitan marketplace, and when work is available and they are given a start date, they are going off the street like mad, and they lack the processes in place to vet, retain, and train, right? And what that does is you're coming on for $40 an hour. I'll give you an example. I had one customer. They were hiring swaths of people for between $30 to $48 an hour, and these folks might have had 5 to 6 years of experience on a resume. That person, whatever trade, and again, argue with me if you think I'm wrong, drop a comment for Alex. That person's a $28 to $30 an hour person. You've created this $10 disparity, and again, it was a sizable workforce in this specific trade. That hits the market, and it puts people sideways. They think they're worth more than they are, right? So again, that's why I don't even want to touch money, because right now, like, that's why people leave. But in my opinion, like, these people who are jumping for $3 to $4 an hour, like, it's just because the marketplace was a bit backwards for the past 2 years. I feel like that will correct, because we have, those companies are out. Those companies are now out, right? And there was about 3 or 4 of them within that space, and they're done. The real ones stuck around, and they're going to be very healthy in 2026, I believe. So the money thing is definitely number one for why people are jumping. These hourly rates are getting wild. But again, for me, it's really like, we'll get a call and it's, hey, why are you looking to leave? Well, like, this job is finishing and I don't know what's next. Like, if you have your people in the field not knowing what job is coming up next, and they're wrapping up a high rise and they're doing punch list finish items, and you haven't adequately explained to your general foreman or project manager what's next on the docket for these gentlemen to look forward for, like, they're on Indeed right now looking, right? So again, that's not to create panic or anxiety for contractors in the marketplace right now, but, like, again, clear as kind. Like, clear as kind. You want to overtly explain what you have coming. And again, like, that's not a one size fits all, right? Because there's certain projects that you sign an NDA for. You don't want your comp knowing what you have, if that number is still getting shopped by that GC to other subs. So I get, like, when and where you have to be tactile with that. But when it is appropriate, share your backlog. The number one thing right now for people outside of money is retention. Outside of that is culture. Outside of that is safety. What do you think?
I again, going back to failing to adapt, right? So it's you know, it's the employer that has no choice but to water down benefits, which then creates contention between their employees and that, right? Because it's like, okay, well, 5 years ago we did have the gold plan. I had co-pays for my doctor visits, XYZ. Because of cost, they kept just kicking the can down the road, and now all of a sudden there's a $4,000 deductible. You know, they're getting charged because they need an outpatient procedure. I mean, that's one thing, right? That's kind of small potatoes, but it's more of being tone deaf to the environment of the medical insurance and the cost of medicine in the United States today. That's we can have a separate conversation on why that's broken and all the problems with that. But if you're tone deaf to it, and, you know, you stick your head in the sand, an employee's going to leave. They're going to leave. They're going to leave to go someplace where they don't have to worry about maybe their, you know, special needs child getting the services that they need to get, or, you know, their daughter that has type 1 diabetes can't get the insulin that reacts really well with her. So she had, you know, the insurance company will only pay for this insulin, and now she's having reactions in school and it's hard for her to study. And those are major issues in your employees' lives, and you would be shocked at how many employers don't recognize that. They don't see that. They're saying, well, no, that's outside our scope. That's a personal issue. That's a personal level, right? So it's really about understanding what you're offering, having a budget, knowing the costs, and making sure that as a consumer of your employer health sponsored plan, as a consumer of that plan, you're putting the right pieces on the chessboard to make sure that your employees are happy and are going to stay with you.
I tell you what, if I'm a business owner and I'm listening to this, number one thing I'm questioning is I got to make sure I got pros like you guys in my stable, because honestly, I know a lot about both of your industries, but I know like less than 1%. And it's interesting just how specialized each one of these verticals really are. And it goes back to what we said earlier, is that if you have these variables in your business, like, you know, maybe you're just a widget manufacturer and you only need to think about, you know, the cost of widgets, the cost of people, and my rent, so be it. But a lot of the business owners that we're speaking to, they have a lot of these variables, and it's like what you just touched on, which is 1%, is so specialized that you really need to dive in and audit that. What you just touched on about how the labor is, what the cost of labor is, why, if I'm a drywall contractor, and why, I might be paying my guys 35 and I didn't need to, but I am because I am. Maybe this is my opportunity to learn about what I should have known, what everybody else is doing. Because I got to tell you, if I pick up the phone and I call 4 guys, how honest are they going to be with me, right? Listen, some guys are amazing. They'll be transparent. Like, I spent exactly $17 on whatever, but a lot of times they're going to be wishy-washy. You have that perspective of, I got 30 clients who do what you do. This is the range of what's going on, and this is how they're solving it. It's like, how do the best of the best do something? Ask you that. So it's like, I call it living life in the HOV lane. If you're here in Long Island, it's a good thing to know. Like why does a business owner have to go figure it out on their own? I could talk to somebody who does this every single day and figure out the best 30 do it, right? If it's health insurance, if it's benefits, if it's whatever, surround yourself with the right specialists. Be open-minded and audit everything. Play from ahead. Don't wait for it to get out. Love it. All right, boys. And thanks for tying that at you.